The Auxiliary Board of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens, celebrating over 65 years of unwavering love and support for the former Cyberling estate and carrying on their tradition of non nobis solum, not for us alone. Dedicated to the mission of supporting the management of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens, Inc., by interpreting Stan Hywet as a cultural and educational center by raising funds to provide all possible financial support and promoting volunteer services. The September 2024 Auxiliary Board meeting featured a very special presenter, our very own Jacob Masters, Director of Fund Development at Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens. Speaking about fund development at Stan Hywet Hall. Recorded in the Carriage House Meeting Room at Stan Hywet on September 25th, 2024.
Well, it's nice to see everybody here and everybody chatting and so much going on. I see a lot of business happening here. I always do this. Business happening back and forth. Welcome to the September AB General Meeting. In case there's any guests, I'm Darby Ashelman. I'm the president of the AB. So welcome to our friends on Zoom. I think we have three. Just a reminder to people on Zoom and those here in the room, please mute your telephones for us and mute your voice on Zoom for us so we do not interrupt our speaker. Ken is under the weather and not here today, so I get the honor of introducing our speaker today. As you may remember, we were originally planning to hear from Toivo, but Toivo is so busy working education programs that we were able to get a substitute that we are equally excited about. Our presenter today is Jacob Masters, Director of Development. I think this is an area probably a lot of us don't know a lot about. At least I for sure do not. So we thought this would be great information to get to know Jacob and know a little more about what he does. He has been working at Stan Hywet for 10 months. I'd say that makes him an expert. So, hey, if you know more than we do, you're the expert. That's what I always tell people giving tours. You know more than they do, that makes you an expert. Jacob is a graduate of the Ohio State University. Yay, yay, we're happy about that. And he came from another museum famous for the Polar Express train ride. So with that little snippet, I'm going to ask Jacob to come up and give his presentation.
All right, well, thank you, Darby. Can everybody hear me? Okay, because I've never been told I need a microphone, so here I am with a microphone. So if I'm too loud, tell me that as well. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. How is everybody today? Good. Even on this cloudy, rainy, sort of fall day. Finally glad that the weather is breaking because I don't do heat. I actually like winter better than I like summer. I'm one of those weird people. So I'm very excited for fall. And we just have this little thing next week. I'm sure you guys aren't aware of it, I'm sure at all, right? So very excited to be here. I'd like to give a big shout out to everybody here for coming today and listening to this presentation. I hope that you will learn something out of it, get more of an understanding of what we do here when I'm talking about fund development here at Stan Hywet and how we do it. Also a little bit about me as well. And then, of course, I'd also like to thank Ken and Darby for asking me to come to present to you guys. So, and also a big thank you to everything that you do for Stan Hywet. So let's just jump right in. So this is kind of going to be the presentation outline, just really quick. A little introduction on me, and then what exactly is fund development. And then we're going to break down fund development into different categories: annual fund grant writing, capital, restricted, the gala, fundraising events, event sponsorships. We're going to talk a little bit about planned giving, and then also a little bit about the future and looking forward, strategic planning-wise, when it comes to fund development. I am the kind of person that if you have a question, you don't need to wait until the end. I'm very informal when I speak, so please, if you have a question, do not feel afraid to ask. So let's start with me. I love these pictures. This is from my previous job at the Denison Railroad Depot Museum. Yes, that is the Polar Express. The one on the left actually is the governor was in this picture, even though you cannot see him. It was a train ride specifically for America 250, and he happened to be visiting Denison for a meeting, and yes, I had to do the Polar Express in front of the governor. You want to talk about scary? That was scary. So it was a little interesting. So anyway, who I am, I was actually born in North Carolina, a little known fact, but I consider myself an Ohioan. I moved here with my parents to Marietta, Ohio. That's where I'm originally from. And I moved there when I was 7 years old, second grade, third grade, somewhere around in there. I can't remember exactly. And so I'm originally from Marietta, so I always call myself an Ohio boy, always. I went to The Ohio State University, emphasis on the. Anybody in this room probably knows what I'm talking about, you know. So I went to The Ohio State University. Another interesting fact about myself is my degree is in mathematics. Originally wanted to be a doctor. Yeah, I went to be a doctor. I was telling Darby earlier today, the reason I did not go towards that, because I actually was shadowing a surgeon, because I wanted to be a surgeon, and I saw a C-section, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm done. You keep that to yourself. So was like, okay, I'm out of this. So after college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Literally no idea what I wanted to do. And so my best friend in college, her mom, ran a museum in Denison, Ohio, and was like, you know what, I have a job for you. Well, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be an accountant. No offense to accountants, but while I love numbers, high-level math is not really numbers. It's more like theory. So I got a job with actually the Ohio History Connection. It was an AmeriCorps program, local history corps, that had different people around the state. And so I started in history right after college. While I always loved history, I always was pretty good at it. I was good at remembering dates. I was good at those kind of things. Again, numbers. I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. My mom took me to museums when I was a kid. My dad took me to museums when I was a kid. So I had always a passion for them. So when I got into it, I was like, oh, this is exciting. So I worked in Denison, which is just south of here in Tuscarawas County. It is a National Historic Landmark, the Denison Railroad Depot Museum, and we are famous for the Polar Express train ride. We are now institution is the only true Polar Express train ride now in the state of Ohio. The one that is right next door, the Cuyahoga Valley, is actually truly not a Polar Express. It's just a Santa train ride. So we have the distinction of being the only one in the state of Ohio. Beyond that, so while I was in Denison, I did a lot of development. I also did a lot of operating. It was kind of a dual role, depending on the time of the year. There was more development involved, or there was more operating. With Polar Express, for example, it's a 16,000 person event. It's 16,000 people on a train over 2 weekends, so it's a lot. Development kind of goes out the wayside, and you really just focus on the operations during that time period. I also want to point out the picture on the right is the hot chocolate dance. Yes, we have to do the hot chocolate. Has anyone ever seen the movie The Polar Express? Right, most of you probably have. Yeah. Well, we don't do the jumping and the weird stuff. No, you're not allowed to do that on a train. Actually, the railroad would yell at you. And it's very hard to dance on a moving train. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but just warning you, it's a little challenging. Beyond that, I have actually worked with quite a few statewide organizations. I'm currently the board president of the Ohio Museum Association, which is the statewide membership organization for museums. They hold annual conferences. They also do a lot of, work with advocacy for museums at a statewide level and a nationwide level. I've also worked with the Ohio Local History Alliance on their board many years ago. I have worked with the Ohio Travel Association. I've also worked with national museum organizations such as the American Alliance of Museums, American Association of State and Local History. So lots of different organizations. I've presented at conferences, and I love doing it. So, of course, now I'm the director here, and very excited to be here at Stan Hywet. As Darby said, it's been 10 months, and I don't know if I'm an expert yet. I think it probably takes a full year, maybe a little longer, because there's a lot. I mean, you guys know. I don't have to tell you anything, because you guys know. You guys are definitely probably more experts than I am. But I do really love working here at Stan Hywet. I really kind of stepped into this role very excited. Like I said, I did have a background in development, background in numbers, background in math, background in operations. So again, I have really, really enjoyed it. And a lot of that's from the people in this room, because you have welcomed me with open arms. Now, personally, I am an adrenaline junkie. What I mean by that is I will ride the tallest, the fastest, the biggest roller coasters in the world, and I've been on a lot of them. I have a platinum pass to Cedar Point. I go about 10, 12 times a year. Yes, they just announced they have a new coaster that tilts you forward and then drops you. I don't know if you've seen that yet. It looks terrifying, but I am pumped. I'm ready. I'm also a huge fan of Disney. I go to Disney probably at least once or twice a year, either Disneyland, Disney World. I don't care. It's Disney to me, so I love it. Beyond that, too, I am also a big fitness guru. I am a certified CrossFit coach, certified MetaFit, MetaPower coach, and I really, really into fitness. So I typically work out every day. I actually went to the gym this morning at 5 a.m. So yeah, that's about me. So let's talk about, maybe later. Oh, another interesting fact, too, is I speak French. Very interesting fact. I practice it by singing it. If you ask me to sing it, I might. Maybe later. Maybe at the end of this presentation, I will sing to you in French. But let's really get down into the nitty-gritty of really why I'm here today. So let's talk about fund development. So when I say those words, fund development, this is usually what people think, right? Everybody knows this famous scene from Jerry Maguire, show me the money. That's what literally people think I do. So this is a really funny story. And mind you, I told my parents this too, because my mom is an ER nurse and my dad is an engineer. They don't know anything about development. So when I told them what I was doing, they were like, wait, you ask people for money? Wait, that's what you do? Like, so you just like bring in money? I'm like, well, I mean, sort of, but not exactly. So my first day or my first week here, I met with several of the staff, and one of my favorite things was I have this problem. Are you going to solve it for me? Are you going to fund it for me? I'm like, no, it doesn't really work like that. I can't just wave a magic wand. I wish it worked like that. Trust me, if it were that easy, I wouldn't be here, right? I think somebody's...
Can't you hear it there?
Oh.
Can you just... Somebody on the Zoom call, can you mute? We can hear you talking.
That's why I hear voices coming from somewhere.
Yeah, it's coming through over there.
Oh, okay.
So please mute. If you're on the Zoom call, please mute. Your conversation or the words you're saying are coming through and interrupting.
Oh, thanks, Darby. Sorry about that little interruption. So again, it's kind of one of those things where this is what people usually think of. So I'm actually going to read the official definition of fund development, and I looked this up on Google. And it's going to be lots of words that even I don't understand. But basically, fund development is strategically positioning an organization to sustain and grow its resources by building relationships with those who understand and care about the organization's relevance to the community. That's just a lot of words. Really, what I do is this. It is relationship building. So when we talk about fund development, there are 4 groups of people that we look at. The first group is the lowest group. And when I say the lowest group, it is the largest group. It is the people that do not know we exist and do not care. We're never going to get those people, right? We're never going to get them. If they come, great, but we're not sure if that's going to happen. Then we have the second level. The second level are people who may come to an event, have come to a tour, have a little bit of understanding of what's going on. Kind of, they love that it's pretty. They love that the house is gorgeous. They love that the gardens are beautiful at every time of the year, even in winter. That's level 2. Then we have level 3. Level 3 are your members of the institution. They pay a certain amount to get something in return, right? So that's membership. So that's level 3. The final level is level 4. And level 4 is what I deal with. Is who I work with. Level 4 are the people who are donating money because they are not getting anything in return. Now, when I say that with a caveat, because yes, while there is the tax exemption that they get, the tax break that they get at the end of the year when they do their taxes, when they donate to a 501c3, but they're not physically getting anything in return. So the idea is that you are trying to change those level 2s to level 3s, and then level 3s to level 4s. And then technically there's even one little bit higher level, level 5 is like when you have like your major donors, people who are donating a lot of money. We're talking like 5, 6 figures donations to the institution. So in a nutshell, I know that was a very long, complicated answer of what is fund development. basically what I do is I build relationships to sustain this organization. I figure out the why. Now, when I say that, again, there's levels. I always think of things in levels. There's always the what's, the how's, and the why's, right? What is what we do? We do it well. How is how we're doing it, and why is why we're doing it. And so everybody in this room, you're here for a reason, right? You're here for a why. Why do you love Stan Hywet? And I was actually going to make you guys do an activity, but I'm not going to do that today because we don't have a ton of time to do this. But one of my favorite activities is to figure out your why. Why are you sitting in this room right now, right? That is my job, to relay that information to the donors so that we sustain for the future. That is fund development. Okay, I'm done. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wish it stopped right there, right? Again, as Darby said, I'm not going to say this is the hardest work in the world. I'm not doing rocket science. I'm sure that's probably a lot harder than development. But it does take a special individual. It takes someone who is kind and caring and listening. I like to think I'm that most of the time. I don't know. You guys probably know that better than I do. But really, fund development is about building those relationships, building those connections with people, and it's not a sales position either. That was something that somebody once told me a few years ago, that, oh, so you just basically are selling it. And I'm like, not exactly. Because again, selling means that somebody is getting something in return, right? Like you are getting a good, you're getting a service in return. Donors aren't really getting that. They get the satisfaction of donating to a great site like Stan Hywet. They get the tax break, but they're really not getting anything else in return. What they're getting isn't really tangible. So I want to talk a little bit about giving in a little bit, but there is some psychology around giving and why people do it. It makes people feel happy, like truly, it makes people feel happy. So I'm going to go into a little bit more of the weeds now, because we're going to talk about the annual fund, because this is probably one of the biggest things that I work on during the year. Annual fund is, again, another basically fancy word for the operating budget, right? Jenny will come to me and be like, we need to raise this much money. And I'm like, okay, so I'll figure it out. It doesn't actually work like that, no. She doesn't just come to me like, here's an arbitrary number that you're going to find. No, that's not how it works. We look at trends. There's a lot of trends when it comes to donating. We can go into a lot of science behind that. I'm sure that's going to bore all of you, so I'm not going to go that route. But really, the annual fund is operating. It is what operates the estate. So what does that mean? That could be the utilities. You got to pay the gas bill. One of my favorite quotes from my previous director was, you could have the most beautiful site in the world, but if you can't turn the lights on, then you have nothing, right? So for annual fund, a lot of the operating budget goes to utilities, it goes to insurance, it goes to payroll, it goes to all of those things that we have to pay for. Who wants to pay insurance? I'm hoping everybody in this room is like, no, nobody wants to do that. It's a necessary evil, but again, we have to do it, right? So operating annual fund, this is where this money is going towards. It also can go towards education. It can go towards preservation. It can go to community engagement and exceptional experiences. One of the things I love about Stan Hywet is that we have some of the best experiences I've ever witnessed at any museum. When I talk about that is everybody in this room has some kind of memory of this place. By a show of hands, who has a memory of this place? A good, positive memory. Everybody's hand should be in the air. Yeah, because again, you wouldn't be here if you didn't. One of my favorite stories, I have two stories to tell. One is about the gingerbread cookies, of course. When I started last year in November, I literally jumped in to deck the hall. When I mean I jumped in, I mean it. I started in November. So it was like both feet into the frozen lake, up to here. Probably the lagoon. I'm not sure how deep the lagoon is, but probably somewhere like that. So I jumped in with both feet, loved it. I absolutely love Deck the Hall. And it's totally my kind of pace. Again, I'm used to 16,000 people on a train, 600 people at a time. I'm used to that kind of quick, fast pace. But I was in Molly's Cafe, which was my favorite place to work. It was just fun. And somebody came up and was like, oh, what is that smell? Somebody was baking gingerbread cookies. And they're like, I remember coming here with my grandmother, she had told me that she had passed. And she's like, I cannot wait to taste this because this tastes like my childhood. And when you think about that childhood and you think about that memory, this is one of the things I tap into for our donors, because our donors feel those same kind of things. There's a reason why they're donating, right? They have some kind of memory, some kind of thought, some kind of feeling, emotion about Stan Hywet, right? So that's one of my favorite stories. My second favorite story was when I was working in admissions, and I do not have kids of my own, but I love kids. I'm great with kids. And I had this family come in, and they were a family of 4, and the dad and the younger daughter, who was probably about 3 or 4, were talking, and we were scanning their tickets, and we were getting their wristbands on. The mom and the older daughter had to go to the bathroom, so they went to the bathroom. The little girl, mind you, would not let anybody else put her wristband on but me. Only me. And I was like, okay, I mean, that's fine. I'll do it, whatever. And so the mom and the older sister come back, and they were like, so I'm like, okay, so here's your map, and I point everything out, and like, here's Santa, and here's the house, and this is what you should do, this is the order you should do it in. Send them on their merry way. About 2 minutes later, the younger daughter, mind you, runs into the admissions office, and is grabs my hand and is pulling me to go see Santa. She wants me to go see Santa with her, and I'm like, oh, okay, hold up. I'm like, remind you, there's people everywhere. You've been in the admissions, you know what it looks like. So there's people everywhere, and the dad's like, oh my goodness, where'd you go? And so I was like, well, honey, I can't really go with you and wait in line, but here's what I do. So I grab her hand, and I take her out the back door, and I walk her over to Santa, and I point to him, and I'm like, there he is. What I want you to do is I want you to tell him what you want for Christmas. Then after that, I want you to go into the house afterwards, do a tour, and then come back to me and report. And I told her, I think last year there was that mermaid room in the house, which was gorgeous. So I said, I know you're going to love this room. And, about an hour later or so, she comes back, and she is so excited and happy. She will never forget that moment of when I tried to take her to Santa. I mean, I wish I could go with her. I mean, obviously I couldn't do that because I had to work. But it's one of those things to me that the parents felt very appreciative. I had a really great time, and I made a difference in that child's life. And all it took was putting a wristband on and walking her over to Santa. These are the kind of experiences at Stan Hywet that we create. And again, this is what I use for fund development. So I know that, again, that was a lot of stories. I'm also a storyteller. As that picture you saw earlier, where I'm telling stories, I can actually recite the Polar Express. I'm not going to do that either. I've literally read it, oh goodness, I can't tell you how many times, over 100. So I know it forward, backwards. But anyway, point being is I do love to tell stories. So annual fund, operating, going towards paying the bills. That's what it does. Education, preservation, community engagement, and those experiences. Well then, so that's kind of the what. So what's the how, right? So we do things that we call appeals. This is, again, a fancy term in development for basically asking for money. And it's usually a big ask. It usually goes out to a lot of people. We have a list of, I think the last time I pulled it was like 5,024 people, I think is the exact total. And we send letters to them. Now letters, it could be emails, it could be social, it could be phone calls, it could be in the magazine. You guys will see the magazines that come out. There's always an article or something about development, annual fund, planned giving, all of that's in there. So we typically do 3 appeals a year, and you can see them up here. Spring is, of course, guess when that is. It's in the end of March, early April into May. So those are the kind of the months that we do. Last year we kind of focused it on opening because, even though the place is closed, we still need to raise money. There's still gas bills, there's still water bills, there's still education. I mean, we just don't shut down in January. That's a big planning month. We still got things to do. You guys know that as well as I do. So that's the spring appeal. Then we have this thing called 714 days. So 714 is basically our annual day of giving. It is on July 14th. It is 714 because, any guesses why? It's the address. Very good. So we do not focus so much on Giving Tuesday that while some of you might participate in Giving Tuesday, and while we do to a certain extent, this is more our Giving Tuesday because unfortunately the trends with Giving Tuesday in the last couple of years has really dropped off. So that's why we focus more on the 714 day, and that was what we consider our annual day of giving. And then of course we have year end. Year end is October, November, December. So the October letters, which all of you are probably on that list, you should be getting in the first week of October. Now, mind you, I'm not expecting you to do anything with it because you have just a little tiny thing going on at the beginning of October, but you should be getting a letter soon. So this is what our spring appeal looked like. This is typically the amount of money that it brings in, 50 to 60. It's pretty much stayed on trend every single year. Again, this is a letter that goes out to everybody. Those funds come in between April, May, sometimes June, depending on when we get it. It just depends. So again, it goes about mid-April to June, and that's what we do. Again, we talked about 714 day, and I will be showing you some numbers. If you're not a numbers person, I apologize, but it's developments. We're going to talk about numbers. So these are what we came in with for 714 day. We have a very good relationship with the Jacobson Foundation that matches our donations on this day. So everything that gets brought in, they match to the penny. Now, this does not happen very often from a funder, but it is absolutely a development director's dream when someone says, whatever you make, we will match. Does not matter what the limit is. Last year, they matched it up to 18. This year, I wanted to make it 20. Now, mind you, I did not ask them for 20. I asked them for 18. I said we were going to make 20. They would match up to 18. And again, it's a director of development's dream when they say, oh, no, we'll match it to whatever you get. And so, as you can see on the screen up here, $21,517.03 taken in on 714, matched by the Jacobson Foundation for a total of over $43,000 in one day. So that is our annual giving day. It's absolutely wonderful. If you don't do it that day, that's okay. If you haven't given yet this year, come see me after because I will be hitting you up, trust me. And then year end. Year end is exactly what it sounds like. It is a combination of letters. That's kind of the big aspect of the year end campaign appeal. Then there's also be some social media posts, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. And then, of course, our e-blasts that we send out. How we break it down is October is kind of like spring. It's like throwing Jell-O at a wall sometimes. You just kind of see what sticks. We get a little bit deeper with November and December. November, we send to lapsed donors. Lapsed is a word in development that means that you have not given in at least 12 months, right? So we send it to those people to try to get them re-energized back into what we're doing here at Stan Hywet. And of course, December is all about the holidays because, you know, Christmas and all that, and all those other holidays. So I want to again show you some numbers. I know there's a lot of numbers here on the screen. This is kind of the breakdown, and this is to August 31st. So as you can see, there is, and don't worry about the budget thing. I throw that in there as a precaution. That's not what it actually is. You see it's 168,000 from 24 to 23, and then in 22 we had 149. So we are trending higher. We're right at the same basically level we were in 23, which is great. It's great to see. The reason that's great to see is one is we're in election year. It is always harder to raise in an election year. That's just how it is. Also, based on trends, giving philanthropy has gone down quite a bit. So it's great to actually see that we are still holding steady with those trends and being an election year. So that is a tribute to all of the staff here at Stan Hywet and all the volunteers. So that is annual fund. Now we're going to go into grants. Now grants is a whole nother kettle of fish because there's a lot of different types of grants. There's government, there's foundations, there are corporates, sometimes even individuals have that would probably go to some kind of family fund. Again, so it just depends. It runs the gamut. All sorts of different types of grants. This is just a sample of the grants that we write a year. This is not all of them. These are basically the ones that we have gotten already this year. As you can see, it's a pretty significant amount. And this is just for operating. These are just the operating grants. We'll talk about capital and restricted in a minute, but it's pretty significant, right? So this is a lot. This is a lot of what I have been focusing a lot on this year is grants, because has anyone ever written a grant in this room? A few of you, a few hands? Okay, then you know what it's like. So the grants come in all different shapes and sizes. Every different type of application you can imagine. You have the really, really hard ones like federal grants that take months to prepare, sometimes years to prepare. And then you have very simple ones that, here, write a letter and tell me what you want. It runs the gamut. So it just depends. But writing a grant, it's like telling a story. You express a need, you express a why, and how we are the best people to fix the problem. Because we are, right? We're Stan Hywet. We can always fix the problem, right? So again, this is the list of operating grants that we've received to date. These are the ones that we are still applying for the rest of this year. Again, it's a pretty significant amount. Now we're going to talk about restricted and capital. So I threw this slide on here because some of these are still being applied for, some have already been applied for. As you can see, there's some pretty big ones on here. The largest one is in the federal appropriation grant for $1.25 million. We're really hoping we get that one. Cross your fingers, everybody cross your fingers in this room, because we're really hoping. We did move into the second phase. Since it's federal, it's very slow. It's all based on politics, of course, as it always is in that case. But we're hoping we really get that grant. I think we should find out in November when that happens. Again, you'll see on here lots of different, probably names you recognize at places and different foundations that you recognize. I'll get to the final numbers at the end of the presentation because I don't want to give anything away. But again, as you can see here, there's a lot of grants. There's a lot of restricted projects. Restricted can mean anything. It can be from collections. It could be to the gardens. It could be to public programs. It, again, runs the gamut. There's lots of different things going on here. There's lots of different things to apply for. So these are our list of restricted grants and capital. Am I good on time? Okay, I just want to make sure. We're going to talk about Gala next. If you didn't know, just a small event here at Stan Hywet is our Gala in the Garden. This is a development event. However, just because I say it's a development event does not mean I do not have help from a lot of people. I think every single department at some point has their hands in this event at some time or another, whether it be facilities, putting up the tents and the lights, whether it be public programs. Could not do this without Valerie. She is my right-hand woman on this event. Whether it be to Jenny, who's doing some admin things, and Linda, to our marketing people, to Mike and Donna, who are doing our social media and doing our gala invitations, and then to Emma, who's doing my lists. And again, it's so many people, and the people in the house getting it ready for everything that goes on, right? Great event, hottest day of the year. I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. It was 100 degrees. This was again, as you can see in these pictures, it was a beautiful day. We have gone back to the summer solstice, which is what it was originally. It moved around a little bit. But again, it was the hottest day of the year. So it was terrible. This was the very first year we ever actually took the dress code from black tie to more casual, and it was very welcomed. I could never have done that in that heat. I'm telling you, I cannot do it. So glad we changed that. Great job, Jenny. Thanks for that. So it saved also the staff a lot of time too. So the gala is the premier fundraiser, signature fundraiser for this estate. Now, Ohio Mart's a big event. That's an event, so there's a difference between fundraiser and event. This is a fundraiser. That's why this event is under development, and why Ohio Mart and Deck the Hall and Easter and all those other things are under public programs, because they're slightly different. Again, the premier signature event, again, the first year we had to change the dress code. This is how much we made. So we bring in about this year we brought in about $463,000. There's a lot of expenses. It's a very nice event, black tie. Again, we didn't do black tie this year. It's a great meal. We have auctions. We had trips to Italy auctioning off. We had a trip to Marrakesh, which actually was surprisingly the best one. I didn't know how that was going to go. I'm glad it went well. And this is how much we made when you take out those expenses. So again, an absolutely wonderful event. I didn't know, I threw this in here because again, it's part of development. And I didn't know if you guys knew that gala was part of development. So I wanted to throw that in there. And save the date for 25. Shameless plug right here. So make sure you write down your calendars. So a few other things, development events that are technically fall under development is our annual meeting. So this is one of the things, that when you look at the annual report, what you see, and there's a lot of numbers, a lot of it's development related. That is under me. Great Hall Assembly. Some of you are probably very familiar with this event. Again, falls under me. These two events are what we call cultivation events, which means that I'm not coming up to you and asking for donations, which again, most people think that's what I do. No, I don't hold a tip jar out there and just here, please give to me, right? No, It doesn't work like that. These are cultivation events where we bring and thank people for their donations. At Great Hall Assembly in particular, this is where we do the Cyberling Society and the Landmark Society, which if you're not familiar with those terms, Cyberling is the people who have done planned giving, wills, bequests, things of that nature, who have put us in them, and that they go into that society. Landmark Society is based on how much you give. There are different levels depending on how much you've given over time. So that is where we recognize those at the Great Hall Assembly. And this is the kickoff to Deck the Hall. So it is, what day is it? November 21st this year. Another thing that falls under development is event sponsorships. So Easter, I really wanted to find the picture of me in the Mad Hatter outfit, because that's who I was this year. This was one of, besides Deck the Hall, this is one of the first events I participated in. I don't know if anybody remembers, it rained the entire day. And I'm not talking like a little drizzle, no, it like rained the entire day. It was so cold, but I had so much fun. Watching those kids run around and find those eggs was hysterical, like I loved it. But I do the sponsorship for this event. So we work with Acme, they are our sponsor for the Easter event. I'm the one who goes and meets with Acme and asks for a donation and a sponsorship for this event. Same thing with Car Show. So Car Show is a little bit different. We have the development tents. This year we had 2, normally we have 3. The third one was actually out of town at the National Car Show, which who knew that was going on in Gettysburg. But we do development tents at Father's Day Car Show, and that is a sponsorship for that event. So I work on those, and then of course we have Deck the Hall. And this is just a few of them, this is not all of them, but I want to do the big 3 that you guys are probably most aware with. I do not do the sponsorships for Ohio Mart. That is Jordan, who is fantastic, and Emma, both fantastic people, and they do a great job with that, so I do not do that. However, I think possibly it may come under me in the future, so I get to work with all of you in the future even more. So this is the slide I was really wanting to talk about before we go into the last part, which is planned giving. This really shows you by the numbers. Again, I'm a numbers person. What you can see on that left side, I want to stay close to the microphone so you can hear me. Left side is the raised to date side. So if you look down at the very bottom, including Gala, which was never thrown into this total, which it always should have been, we've raised $1.3 million so far this year, right? If you look in the left to raise, we're obviously not raising any more in Gala this year because it's over. With grants outstanding and all the grants that we're applying for, we have 1.9 still left. So if, and now this is a very big if, because you don't always get everything you apply for, but we're really hoping that we do, if we get everything, our total raise this year, and this is just development, this is annual fund, this is capital, Gala, everything included, will be $3.2 million, which is pretty significant. So this is what I work on, right? But again, I work on, and this is, I want to be very clear, this is not just me. You don't need to clap for me, you need to clap for the staff, because this is not done solely by me. I might be the orchestrator, the conductor, but I have help from every other department and every volunteer group when I do this. Because without you, let's say the AB, for example, the way you make this place look beautiful during Ohio Mart, that helps me raise funds, right? That's what you guys do. And so I thank you for helping me get to this total, right? So the last thing I want to talk about is planned giving. If we are not in your will, we can make that happen. Oh yeah. I really would love to have a more deeper conversation about this. This is one of those things I want to do one-on-one. I do have business cards. I also have some contact, email, phone number. You can carrier pigeon, I don't care. However you want to contact me, but this is something that I really want to focus on in the next few years, really on planned giving. Again, this is a one-on-one conversation, so if you are interested, I do have some pamphlets in the back, and I would love to set up a meeting with all of you. Planned giving is wills, trusts, bequests, life insurance policies. If you want to make Stan Hywet a beneficiary, please let me know. So, again, shameless plug for planned giving. Any questions? I know there's a lot. I threw a lot out at you. Yes, Barb?
Where does the money that the auxiliary board gives you from Ohio Mart show up on those numbers?
That goes to public programs. That is not a development thing. So the numbers that...
Show at all?
Now, if you're talking about the sponsorship program, that will show up in that sponsorship, this number right here. Now, that's not just Ohio Mart. That's part. Some of that is Ohio Mart, some of that's Deck the Hall in that number. But if we're talking like the admissions and things like that, that does not, I never see that. That goes to public programs. But if we're talking specifically the patron program, that is in that number.
It's revenue under public program.
Yeah, so that's why you don't
It's
see it.
not revenue, it just doesn't go in.
Development. It's a separate category. But good question. It's a great question. I can't believe I answered everybody's questions. Okay. So, oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay, it's my understanding that the restoration in the Great Hall of one of the
Tapestries.
of one of the tapestries was donated by a family of their mother had volunteered here.
Okay.
And it was given in honor of her mother, and that was a very substantial, I understand, at least $80,000 or more.
Right.
Do you often get things such as that, where in memory
We do.
someone who has volunteered?
It could be volunteers. It could be anybody who has any kind of connection to Stan Hywet. Usually it's volunteers. It could be previous staff members who've retired. It could be people who just love Stan Hywet. We kind of, when it comes to gifts like in memorials and tributes, we have several different categories under that. It could be people who have passed away, and so their donations, instead of lieu of flowers, for example, that will come to Stan Hywet if that's what they want. Or it could be in that planned giving, which in that case was that, where it was a planned gift that was specifically to go to something. We do get that sometimes. Sometimes there's caveats. It depends on the will, depends on what the donor wants. A lot of times, if it needs to go to something in particular, if you want it to go to something in particular, that has to be addressed before you write the will. Be very clear about that. If you want $100,000 to go to something, you have to tell us, because if not, then I can't guarantee that's what it's going to go to, because we can't always do that. Yes.
Did that come then from a will distribution, or from
No, it did not.
giving up part of their inheritance?
It did not come from a will in this case.
It was a collection of gifts from family members, mostly, not all of it, in memory of.
Right. So again, it can come in multiple ways. We actually have had another tribute for some other things this year that where people just gathered money and brought it in. So, all right. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
The posted match with the 714 fund. Could you tell us a little more about who those people are?
You know, I wish I could tell you more. I don't know much about them. So this actually started in, I believe, 2021. It actually came up from an idea from our marketing person, Donna, and then she went to the past director of development and found a foundation that wanted to do it. I'm not really sure. Jenny, you might have a better understanding of why Jacobson wants to match, but it was just kind of the foundation that we found that wanted to do it, and they love Stan Hywet. So
Yeah, the trustees for Jacobson have some deep-rooted connection to the estate. Some of them have been past volunteers or trustees of the estate. So they shared in the generosity of what Jacobson could provide for the estate, and they wanted to do something just really different and unique. And so this was the way that, it's a really powerful message, as Jacobson was talking about that, to be able to say, look, for every dollar you give today, we can match that, right? Your dollar becomes $2, your $20 becomes $40, your $100 is $200, and and this is what we can do with that. So they really wanted that powerful message. It's rare that we get that opportunity, so it's such an important thing for them to do.
And again, that's with most of our foundations. They give because they love Stan Hywet. Again, it's all the work that you guys do. All the work that our staff does, all the work that all the other volunteers do, all the work that the board does, all of that. That's why they give. It's because of the work you guys do. Okay. Well, thank you all. I hope you guys learned some things, and thanks for having me. And again, like I said, it's because of groups like you that I'm able to do all the work that I can. So again, thank you. Oh, gosh.
Yes, this is just a little something for you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay.
Who said that? All right. Someone said they needed me to sing in French. Okay. Let me think. Does everybody know the song Dreams by Fleetwood Mac? Ever heard that song? Okay, so randomly, this is how I practice my French, is that I sing songs, because again, that's how I practice it, and I translate it. So I'm not a great singer, and my voice is a little dry, so we'll do this the best I can. Tu le dis encore et je sais, t'es un homme libre, qui saurais-je pour te retenir? C'est chemin vrai que tu dois jouer comme bon te semble, mais écoute attentivement le pouls de ta solitude. There you go.
That's really your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you have a what? Oh, well, fantastic.
Okay, that is a really hard act to follow. And I would like to say that I'm looking forward to Diane's report of that at the end of the year. Will you sing for us?
No, that would clear the place out. But I could translate his French to Spanish.
Oh, there you go. We have so many talents. Thank you so much to Jacob. Really appreciate that. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. We all know a lot more than we did.
Thanks to Jacob Masters for his dedicated service to Stan Hywet Hall, and for speaking to the AB members about fund development at Stan Hywet Hall. The Auxiliary Board of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens invites you to join the organization in their support of Stan Hywet Hall, and invites you all to attend the AB's Ohio Mart, held every October at Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens.